Hey everybody, Mindy with Quilting Mayhem. Welcome to Kona block of the month, month one. So we're gonna do Peridot. I love this block, it's really pretty. If you've never done one of the sew-alongs, I just want you to note, I will potentially give you any pattern corrections, changes, tips, tricks in the videos. So even if you're an experienced quilter, I will suggest that you watch at least the beginning of my videos so that if there's any changes, corrections, things to note, I do try to call them out in the beginning for the most part so that we can catch them. We can catch them early. This is why I like doing it, to test it out for you guys. All right. And so for this one, it starts out with 18 charm squares. And it's interesting because it doesn't tell you like to separate out the 16 for the flying geese and the half square triangles. And then there's 2 that you need for the corner units. Otherwise, because it doesn't need 18 in the beginning. It's really weird. Or just do your 18 all at the beginning, follow the instruction it says, because it's, I find it funny. It's talking about 2 charm squares to make these corner units, which would make them all essentially the same, or like 2 colorways, and they made theirs, I guess they're matching here and here, which kind of bugs me. So I'm gonna make mine a little more scrappy because I can, because you have enough fabric. And remember, keep all your leftover pieces of the charms for the border in the end. There's that checkerboard border if you want to do that. Keep all your extra bits and pieces, okay? And then, so it starts out with half square triangles. I am going to show you 2 different ways to do this half square triangle, and I need you to note that is not your typical half square triangle where you make 2 out of 1 set of squares. We're actually doing half square triangles essentially 1 at a time. So it is what I would call a waist method, but it does give you more scrappiness if you want, and it makes it easier so that all the 2.5-inch squares that you're doing for geese and for this part and setting squares, all that, it's all the same. So we're not trying to be like, take a couple squares, make them 3-inch and the rest of them 2.5. This makes it easier so that everything's 2.5. It's just a little wasteful. We have plenty of fabric, it's fine. And then I am gonna show you a traditional without a specialty ruler, and then I will also show you with the folded corner clipper. I do love this. This is a nice ruler to have. You don't have to have it, but you can essentially skip drawing the lines on your fabric, so you don't have to do this step, and it goes straight into the cutting, and I will demo it. So traditional method, if you're not using a specialty ruler, you're gonna draw your diagonal on the wrong side, the back side, with a solid. There's really no right or wrong. And then for these, you're going to sew on this line, sew on it. And then you'll trim a 1/4 inch from the sew line, press, and make these. So I'll go sew it. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so sewn on the line, and then you just take a regular trimming ruler, your rotary cutter, lay that line on top of the sewn line, cut that 1/4 inch seam allowance, press it, okay? And it should match the size you need, right? So when you have it and you measure it, make sure when you lay it on the diagonal, let's get the 2.5 going the right way, it fits inside, right? Any extras you may have, you trim, which really we don't have any, so we are good. All right, so that's how you do that method. Now, pressing of these 2 options. As you can see, I press mine open. Otherwise, I would say press to the dark. So you'll press to that navy side with your iron and just be consistent with it, and you should be okay. I press open because then I don't have to worry about which way my seams are going. All right, so the other method is, so you take your 2 squares that you have, okay, and you take the folded corner ruler and line it up. So we have this corner lined up. My camera's trying not to focus. This corner 2.5, because right, that's what we need. Trim off that triangle, and now you can take it straight to the machine. You'll have your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and it'll be ready to go. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so that seam should go corner to corner, and you already have your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's why this ruler is really slick, because you're not drawing lines. You're just trimming with that seam allowance and you're ready to go. And then same as the last one, you're just going to press it and be ready to go. And it should just measure right at 2.5 once it's pressed. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay. So you're only doing 4 of those. So do that for 4 of your squares that you match up. And like I said, I made mine scrappy. And then the next step is flying geese. Okay, flying geese. And I know some of you don't like them. I am sorry. I don't think that terrible. But we're going to give you some tips. So you'll have rectangle of background, square with diagonal line on it. Or we're going to use the ruler, right? But if you're not using the ruler, start this way, draw your diagonal lines, and you'll sew on the line from the center out to the tip, or tip out to the center. Either way, doesn't matter which way so that's fine. All right, but you want to make sure you're going to a center out to the middle for the first part of the flying geese. All right, when you sew, if you struggle to get this point to be 1/4 inch, what I tell people is sew to the inside of the line, on this inside, so towards this space, just a little bit. So instead of trying to be dead on that line, ride just the inside of that line, because what that means is you'll have a little bit extra triangle. Because if you accidentally ride the inside of the fabric here, you're too far in, and then this piece doesn't reach your corner, right? It struggles. And that's where you get all that wonkiness of like, why is it not, why does it dip? Why does this triangle not come all the way out like it should? It's because you got too far into the middle. So bare minimum, ride that line towards the part that you're going to cut off, because that will give you more of this triangle, and then you can always trim it up on the outside. That's my tip to make sure that your geese fit 99% of the time, a lot closer to perfection than if you accidentally ride the inside of that line towards the middle. All right, but I'm going to flip this and show you, if we were doing the ruler, how you would cut it. All right. Okay, so if we're using the folded corner, what will happen, and I'm leaving this line so you kind of see it and know what's going on. So if you're drawing lines, you're going to sew on that, right? And that's all you're going to do, draw lines and sew. If you're trimming, what's going to happen is you're going to line up your ruler so that this corner of 2.5 and this top corner line up the way they should. And then we're going to cut this excess off. So the key is to make sure that you have this ruler facing in this direction, so that the straight line's going through the middle and you're coming out this way with that 90 degree and cutting off that excess. That's what's going to make sure that you still get that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's why I left that line for that visual. And now we can take it to the machine and then press it open. All right, so we look like this. Now we need to make sure we do the other side. If you're just doing with a marking pen, just make sure we're laying and going from the opposite, where we're going from the middle out to the other corner, sew on that line, trim, press, right? Now, if we're doing this ruler, you can try to do two different ways. So once again, we're still making sure this goes through the middle, matching the top and the bottom, but it's not marked as well. You can cheat that way, but it's not as happy that way. So generally I would turn it around so that I could do this way. So I could make sure I still have kind of all these markings for the 2.5, and I'm making sure that this excess that I want to cut off is still out here. Okay. So, whoop, ruler's trying to take it with it. So, sew on the line, press, and we'll have geese. So you're going to make a stack of 14 of these geese, all right? Then we'll show you how to put blocks together. Oh, and the key to geese is you want a 1/4 inch from this point to the top. The 4.5 by 8.5 ruler, if you have that, what's nice is it does have this happy little crosshair in it. So you can kind of lay it down and see, like, does this meet at the tip? And you have that 1/4 inch there. If you do, you are golden, all right? All right, so the next step is making the corner units. So we're just going to lay out one of the 1/2 square triangles. Then you have 2 of the 2.5, 2.5 here of that. Then another out here. Oh, we're going to scooch over. Running out of room. Maybe pull you guys back a little bit. There we go. You know, there's a difference of trying to look through the camera versus looking at the mat from the other side. I have to remember, you guys want to see it too. Okay. So this is laying it out. This is essentially a 4-patch. So we're going to make this unit first. So 2 together, 2 together, and then these 2 will go together. This you can put either that one or this one. It's not going to matter, because what will happen is once this 4-patch is done, this will go on one side, and then that unit that you sewed together, that'll go on there. But I will show you each step as we go. Okay, so these 2 units are together, ready to become one 4-patch. Keep in mind, if you are pressing to one side or the other versus open, if you press to the dark side, it will work. So if you press to the navy this way and you press to the navy that way, when you nest these seams together, they will come together nice and securely, or whatever color background you're using. Otherwise, you'll see that I did them open, and then that way I don't have to worry about which way they go. But keep in mind, especially if you're brand new, we want to make sure this triangle is going towards the color for this block. So then make sure you pin that seam, and then take out the machine, make sure your beginning and your ends line up, because if these shift, your block will start to curve and get wonky. So keep these beginning and ends all lined up nice and even. 1/4 inch seam, and then we'll come back. All right, 4-patch unit, it's all together. We're then going to lay this rectangle on top. If you're new, potentially you would want to pin it, but you're just really making sure the beginning again and end again are lined up. Okay, because if you start to shift this way, as you can tell, that's when you get like too much on this side, and then this piece won't fit correctly, all of that. So making sure your beginning and end start and stop together is your key component. All right, so that unit's done. We're going to line up these 2 seams on top of each other and pin them. Okay, and if you're new, I would potentially pin down here just to make sure that this doesn't get out of control. Personal choice. If you're experienced, you know how to keep it all together, but definitely beginners, pins. Pins are your friends. 1/4 inch seam, and then this unit will be done. All right, so your block will look like this, and you're going to make 4 of these, all right? Next, we're going to take our geese, and you need 12 of them to make the unit. So what you'll do is just stack them 3 in a row. Okay, and you're really just going to do 1 to the middle, and then this unit to that unit. So what a first step will look like essentially this, so you have them sewn together, and then you add that unit. So when you're putting these geese together, once again, keeping your corners matching and trying to keep your line straight, because sometimes this center will try to duck down in or pop back up. So try to keep your edges straight. If you need pins, go for it. You shouldn't. Once you kind of start here, and then generally what I do is hold it down at this corner, I can just, use my finger to ease it and kind of hold it as I'm feeding it into the machine. All right, so once you do that step, it will look like that. And you're going to need 4 of those. And then for the center of the block, you just need your 2 leftover geese to sew together into essentially what they call a square and a square block. They're just making it with geese. And this was just so you didn't have to cut 1 square of fabric. It's my assumption. And to cut down a step, I guess. Well, no, you still had to do it. So it was just so you kept doing geese. So this, you match them together. I do generally try to make sure when you're trying to do this, where you're actually matching seams, line it up, pin one side, take the other side, match it up, and pin that way. So I am actually matching those seams, pinning them, and then I'll make sure that this lays all flat and even. Do that 1/4 inch seam again, press, and it'll be flat and open, and you just need 1 of these. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so there's your center block. All right, so cute. So now you're gonna gather all your pieces, all your different blocks that you put together, and we'll start putting the whole final block together. Let's see how it looks. Okay, we're in the home stretch. So this is everything laid out. Try to make sure I don't have at least the exact same colors next to each other. So what's going to happen? We're just going to do rows again, and then each row to each other. So what's going to be important for these is making sure you're lining them up, matching those seams. There's a lot of seams going on. Okay, so match them up, do your pins. If you're worried, do pins at the beginning and the end. Just make sure everything stays straight. And definitely if you're new, go ahead and just do, like this outer corner to this piece and then this piece to that piece, and then do, row 2. Where for me, I've been doing this long enough that I'm going to do all these pieces like this. And I may even change this so the seam will match up where it belongs. And just kind of pin. Like this one doesn't really need to be pinned, but it's just easier for me to stay organized. And then pin this guy. And this is just how I get things done a little more quicker, a little more, what I consider a little more efficient, less thread cutting and snipping and all those kinds of things. So just matching up all these seams. So I will go sew these and then this to that. So I'll show you what it looks like. I'll get the rows together. All right, so row 1, row 2, row 3. This is where it starts getting fun. A lot of pins are going to happen here. I am loving this ripple effect that it's giving though. So what's just going to happen, take row 1 to 2 and just start pinning seams. Doesn't really matter where you start. Sometimes I just kind of do a couple in the middle just so they kind of line up. Match all of this. But every seam, I don't care if you're beginner or advanced, please pin your seams because you do want at least all those intersecting join areas to match. Because you've put a lot of work into this. Now is not the time to get lazy with your pinning. All right. So just do this top one to the middle section, press it, and then to the bottom section. So my seam allowance, I'm going to press it, and then I'm just going to do the same thing. Line this up, pin it, press it, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, everybody, look at that. So beautiful. There is Peridot. So month 1, done. If you are having any issues, please reach out. I will tell you, so any of you that are maybe those super perfectionist people, maybe work on letting some things go, especially when you have this many flying geese. Like I generally have pretty decent points, but sometimes you just got to give yourself some grace, especially if you're like ripping apart and redoing and maybe getting frustrated. If that's happening, please reach out. Call me at the shop, email me at info@Quilting Mayhem, reach out through socials, whatever. If you're getting to that point with geese, let me know, please, because we'll get you through it. We'll do some different tips or tricks to make them behave for you. But hopefully I've given you enough that they're just going to be happy and you're going to have this pretty block. And any minor little offness, let's learn to let those go. Because unless you're doing show quilts, those kinds of things, nobody's going to know. No, I promise. Nobody's going to know, no matter who the quilt's for. And if they are that picky, they don't deserve your quilt. These quilts are made with love. They don't deserve it if they're going to be picky of your work, because I dare them to do better, right? So, super excited. Make sure show as you go. Tag us, Quilting Mayhem. Embrace the mayhem, mayhem makers, all those kinds of things. If you're posting on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all those things. We love seeing what you're doing and sharing with our community. Otherwise, we'll see you next month, and have a fabulous day. Keep on stitching.